In the shadowy town of Willow Creek, nestled between the towering mountains and the whispering rivers, the Watts family lived in a quaint yet secluded cottage, a place where laughter mingled with the rustling leaves and the distant calls of wild birds. The Wattses were known for their warm hospitality, their boundless generosity, and their unyielding faith in the community that had welcomed them into its heart so many years ago. The children, Emily with her fiery red curls and Jack with his mischievous grin, roamed the lush gardens and wide open fields, their imaginations taking flight as they chased butterflies and built forts. Yet, on the cusp of a new autumn, a chill crept into the air, not just from the crisp night air, but from a sinister presence that seemed to hover over their little haven. One night, as the stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across the velvet sky, a series of brutal and senseless murders shattered the tranquility of Willow Creek, leaving behind a trail of sorrow and unanswered questions that would forever etch themselves into the fabric of the town's dark history. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the ocean whispered secrets to the night, the Watts family had always been known for their close-knit bond and serene existence. The sun-kissed facade of their sprawling mansion belied the storm that was about to engulf their lives. It was a warm, balmy evening when the eerie silence was shattered by a series of chilling gunshots that echoed through the tranquil streets, sending shockwaves through the community. The townsfolk, who had once marveled at the Watts' idyllic life, now found themselves grappling with a nightmare as they learned that the family had been senselessly slaughtered in their own home. Detective Clara Hayes, with her steely gaze and unwavering determination, arrived at the scene to find a macabre tableau of destruction. The blood-stained walls and the lifeless bodies of the Watts family, including the beloved patriarch, mother, and their 3 young children, lay in a Chinese letter that defied comprehension. As she began her meticulous investigation, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that the murders were no mere act of random violence, but something far more sinister and deeply rooted in the town's dark history. Little did she know, the truth would unravel a web of betrayal, greed, and a family's tragic fall from grace, leading her down a treacherous path where danger lurked around every corner, and the line between victim and villain blurred into an indistinguishable shade of black. In the shadowed crevices of the otherwise picturesque town of Maplewood, nestled among whispering willows and quaint cottages, there existed an eerie silence that only the faint rustle of autumn leaves dared to break. The Watts family, known for their unassuming existence, lived in a quaint, ivy-clad bungalow at the end of a narrow lane, a place where the sun lingered longer and shadows danced in the twilight. As the leaves turned to a tapestry of crimson and gold, a sense of foreboding crept over the town like a specter, for the Wattses had become the focal point of whispers and unspoken fears. The patriarch, Edward Watts, a kind-hearted man with a penchant for storytelling, had passed away suddenly, leaving behind his beloved wife, Isabella, and their 3 children, each one as enigmatic as the last. Days turned to weeks and weeks to months, and still, no answers came. Then, on a stormy night when lightning danced like a demon in the heavens and the rain beat a relentless drum, the true horror was revealed when the townsfolk stumbled upon the chilling aftermath of a tragedy that would shake the very core of Maplewood to its foundations. In the hushed pre-dawn hours of a sleepy coastal town, the Watts family, a once close-knit unit of 5, lay slumbering in their modest home, unaware of the impending horror that would shatter their tranquil existence. The moon hung low, casting a silver sheen over the shingles of the quaint abode, while the ocean whispered its eternal lullaby beyond the dense thicket of oaks that lined the property. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of lavender and the warmth of a crackling fire in the hearth. Mother Watts, a gentle soul known for her soothing voice and nurturing spirit, lay in bed beside her husband, a former sailor whose eyes now reflected the calm of the sea he once navigated. Their 3 children, 2 girls and a boy, nestled against them, their faces serene, their dreams a tapestry of innocence and joy. Yet, as the first light of dawn began to seep through the curtains, a sinister force was stirring in the shadows, a force that would soon claim the Watts family as its own, casting a dark and indelible stain upon the town's otherwise peaceful facade. In the heart of a quaint coastal town, nestled between the rolling hills and the crashing waves, the Watts family lived a life that seemed picture-perfect. Their sprawling estate was a beacon of wealth and success, with grand gardens, ornate architecture, and a seemingly endless array of amenities. Behind the opulent facade, however, lay a web of secrets, deceit, and despair that would shatter the idyllic existence they had so meticulously crafted. It all began one fateful evening as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow upon the sea and painting the sky in shades of crimson and violet. As the family gathered in the grand dining room, laughter and the clinking of silverware filled the air, but the tranquility was short-lived. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the mansion, followed by a piercing scream that cut through the night, leaving the guests in a state of shock and horror. The once serene Watts estate would soon become the focal point of a harrowing investigation, unraveling a tapestry of tragedy, betrayal, and unimaginable horror that would leave the entire community reeling. The story of the Watts family murders would become a legend, one that would be whispered in hushed tones for generations to come, a chilling reminder that even the most perfect facades can hide the darkest of secrets. In the shadowed hollows of the old Watts estate, where the gnarled oaks whispered tales of forgotten times, the tranquility of dusk was shattered by a symphony of screams that echoed through the dense, overgrown gardens. The moon, a silver coin suspended in the velvet night sky, cast an eerie glow upon the sprawling manor house, its windows now mere slits of darkness. Inside, the Watts family, a once wealthy and prominent dynasty, lay entangled in a web of betrayal and terror. The patriarch, the enigmatic and reclusive Dr. Augustus Watts, a man of great intellect and questionable sanity, had long harbored a dark secret. It was a secret that would soon surface with a fury, unraveling the lives of those who had trusted the illustrious Watts name. As the first stars began to twinkle, a shiver of dread crept up the spines of the local townsfolk, who knew all too well the haunting whispers that whispered of the Watts family murders. In the shadowed crevices of a rain-soaked town, where the fog clung to the cobblestone streets like a ghostly shroud, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of tranquility, their quaint home nestled in a verdant hollow where the whispering leaves seemed to sing lullabies to the world. Yet on the fateful night when the moon hung low and the stars dared not shine, a sinister force descended upon their peaceful abode, shattering the sanctity of their home and leaving a trail of horror that would echo through the ages. The rain poured down in sheets, hammering against the windows, as if nature itself was weeping for the Watts family, who lay slumbering unaware of the grim fate that awaited them. The town of Eldridge, a place once known for its quaint charm and close-knit community, was now shrouded in dread and whispers of the unspeakable. It was a night that would forever be etched into the collective memory of those who witnessed the tragic aftermath, a night when the line between the living and the dead blurred, and the monsters that slumbered in the dark were finally unleashed upon the innocent. In the heart of a quaint, sun-drenched coastal town nestled between rolling hills and the relentless waves of the Atlantic Ocean, the Watts family had long been a beacon of tranquility and prosperity. The Watts mansion, a sprawling estate with its ivy-clad walls and grand, oak-paneled halls, was the centerpiece of the community, a testament to the family's wealth and influence. Inside, the Wattses lived a life of opulence, their days filled with extravagant parties and their nights enlivened by the laughter of children and the soft, melodious notes of a grand piano. But beneath the gilded surface, a dark storm was brewing, one that would shatter the idyllic facade and leave the town reeling in shock and disbelief. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the mansion's grounds, the Watts family was about to face a horror that would become the stuff of legend, a tragedy that would echo through the ages and forever change the course of their lives. In the shrouded town of Willow Creek, where the whispering pines whispered tales of old, The Watts family had always been known for their quiet grace and unassuming charm. The morning of the 15th of October, 1975, began like any other, with the gentle hum of the coffee machine and the soft thud of the garage door opening. Little did the townsfolk know, this would be the day their serene community would shatter into a cacophony of horror. As the sun crept over the horizon, casting a golden glow through the trees, the Watts family, consisting of parents Evelyn and Charles, their teenage daughter Abigail, and the youngest, 10-year-old Thomas, embarked on a day filled with the promise of a family picnic. But as the afternoon sun began to wane, the perfect family day turned into a nightmarish odyssey when, without a single whisper of alarm, the entire family vanished without a trace. The town was thrown into a whirlwind of panic, and the search for the Wattses became an obsession, a relentless pursuit that would uncover secrets buried deep within the very soil of Willow Creek, secrets that would change the lives of everyone who dared to seek the truth. In the shadowy alleys of an otherwise picturesque coastal town, the Watts family had always been enigmatic, their lives a tapestry woven with threads of wealth, mystery, and whispered tales of scandal. The old-timers spoke of the Watts mansion, a sprawling, ivy-covered behemoth perched atop a cliff, its windows glowing with the soft flicker of candlelight on stormy nights. It was said that the air around the estate carried the faint scent of lavender, a pungent reminder of the family's origins in the hallowed halls of old Europe. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow on the sea, the true nature of the Watts' prosperity came to light. For it was not their business ventures or social status that whispered secrets, but the chilling whispers of tragedy that seemed to hang in the air, a specter ever present, waiting to be unearthed. The year was 1923, and the town of Seacliff was about to be forever altered by a series of events that would shatter the tranquility of its residents, a series of events that would unravel the very fabric of the Watts family legacy, revealing a dark tapestry of greed, jealousy, and the ultimate betrayal. In the shadowed crevices of a small, sleepy town nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, the Watts family had been a beacon of tranquility, their home a sanctuary of laughter and warmth. The old, ivy-clad mansion, with its towering chimneys and sprawling gardens, was a testament to the family's prosperity and good fortune. But as the golden hues of sunset began to fade into the night, a chilling silence descended upon the town, and whispers of dread began to weave through the cobblestone streets. It was on a moonless night, when the stars seemed to hide their faces behind a shroud of clouds, that the Watts family's idyllic existence was shattered by a series of harrowing murders that would leave the entire community in a state of shock and disbelief. The first to fall was the matriarch, Mrs. Watts, found slumped in her favorite armchair, her eyes wide with terror, her throat torn open as if by the beak of a raven. The police arrived to find the scene a macabre tableau, the once serene home now a scene of horror. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the murders were no mere acts of senseless violence. They were meticulously planned, each crime a twisted piece of a puzzle that seemed to have no solution. The townsfolk, once united in their admiration for the Watts family, now found themselves divided, some suspecting that the killer was among them, others fearing that the killer was still at large, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the next unsuspecting victim. The town's heart raced with fear, its pulse a steady drumbeat of dread, as the Watts family murders cast a long, dark shadow over their once peaceful existence, leaving an indelible mark on the collective psyche of the community. In the heart of a once idyllic town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, the Watts family had always been known for their warm smiles and close-knit bonds. The sun-drenched streets echoed with laughter from the children, and the evenings were filled with the clinking of glasses and the soft hum of music from the backyard bonfires. But on a chilling autumn night, as the leaves turned a fiery crimson and the world outside began to whisper secrets of its own, the tranquility of the Watts household was shattered by a silence so profound, it seemed to echo through the very fabric of time. The townsfolk would later recall the eerie calm that preceded the horror, a silence so heavy it seemed to press down upon the very souls of those present. It was a night when the darkness crept in, not just through the windows but into the very souls of the Watts family, as a shadowy figure slipped through the unassuming gates of their home, a silent harbinger of the unspeakable tragedy that was about to unfold. The first to feel the cold touch of fate was the patriarch, Mr. John Watts, a man whose life had been a tapestry woven from threads of hard work and unwavering dedication. He was found slumped in his favorite armchair, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and disbelief, a knife buried deep in his chest, the hilt sticking out like a jagged thorn. The next to succumb to the darkness was young Emily, the oldest of the Watts children, whose laughter had been the sweetest melody in the town. She was discovered in her room, a serene smile etched upon her lips, her small form cradled in the arms of her beloved teddy bear, the lifeless eyes staring up at the ceiling as if seeking answers to the unanswerable. As the night deepened, the remaining Watts family members, a mother and two younger siblings, were found in the kitchen, their bodies entangled in a macabre dance. The youngest child, a toddler named Max, clinging to his mother with a grip that would have been fierce had it not been the final grasp of a soul slipping away. The town was thrown into a frenzy, the once peaceful streets now filled with the wails of sorrow and the pounding of frantic hearts. The authorities arrived, their hands trembling as they pieced together the shattered puzzle of the Watts family murders, each clue a piece of a puzzle that seemed to grow more impenetrable with each passing moment. The townsfolk huddled together, their eyes wide with fear and their hearts heavy with grief, as they watched the once thriving community descend into a maelstrom of shock and disbelief. And in the aftermath of the tragedy, as the sun rose with a pale, sorrowful glow, the Watts family home stood as a silent sentinel to the horror that had unfolded within its walls, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that can lie just beneath the surface of even the most idyllic of worlds. In the shadowed crevices of a small, sleepy town nestled between rolling hills and whispering woods, the Watts family had always been a beacon of tranquility, their sprawling estate a fortress of comfort and joy. The old mansion, with its towering chimneys and sprawling gardens, was a symbol of their prosperity and influence, a testament to the generations of Watts who had shaped the town's history. But on a cold, misty evening that seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 secrets, the idyllic facade crumbled, as the town was shaken to its core by a series of unimaginable horrors. The night had been as serene as any other, with the stars twinkling above and the gentle hum of crickets filling the air, until the first scream shattered the silence, a banshee's cry that echoed through the streets and into the hearts of the unsuspecting townsfolk. The police arrived to find a scene of unimaginable carnage, the once peaceful Watts family now reduced to a grotesque tableau of terror, their bodies strewn across the opulent living room, pools of blood mingling with the luxurious carpet. The townspeople were left in a state of shock and disbelief, the very fabric of their community torn apart by a mystery that seemed to defy reason. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the Watts family murders were no mere act of violence, but a meticulously planned and executed act of vengeance, one that would unravel the very essence of the town's seemingly perfect existence. In the shadowy reaches of the sprawling metropolis where the towering skyscrapers kissed the heavens, there lay a quiet residential cul-de-sac where the Watts family resided, a seemingly ordinary household nestled in a neighborhood of modest brick homes and verdant lawns. Yet, beneath the veneer of domestic tranquility, a web of deceit and malevolence was being spun with threads so dark and intricate that it could only be woven by the hands of a master criminal architect. The Watts family, with its patriarch, the enigmatic Dr. Benjamin Watts, the doting mother, Eliza, their 3 children, Alex, the oldest son, a prodigious young artist, Lily, the middle daughter, a bright and spirited teenager, and young Max, the youngest, a lively toddler with a knack for getting into trouble, had no idea that their lives were about to spiral into a vortex of horror. One balmy evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of amber and pink, a series of events would unfold that would shatter the very fabric of their reality and thrust them into the heart of a chilling mystery that would captivate the entire city, a mystery that would unravel the secrets of the Watts family and force them to confront the darkest corners of their own souls. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town where the salty breeze whispered secrets to the ancient oaks, the Watts family had always been a beacon of tranquility, their home a sanctuary of laughter and love. The sun-kissed facade of their sprawling mansion, nestled between the whispering sea and the towering cliffs, was a testament to their prosperous life. But as the golden hues of sunset began to fade, a darkness crept in, shrouding the town in an eerie silence. It was on a crisp autumn evening, as the leaves danced in a macabre waltz, that the Watts family's idyllic existence was shattered by a series of chilling events that would forever etch the town's name into infamy. The night was as still as death itself when the first scream pierced the air, a sound so piercing it seemed to echo through the very soul of the town. And as the moon hung low in the sky, a series of tragic discoveries would unravel the tapestry of the Watts family's lives, revealing a horror beyond the worst nightmares. In the heart of a small, otherwise unremarkable town nestled between rolling hills and dense woods, the Watts family had always been a beacon of tranquility, their lives a tapestry woven from the threads of quiet contentment and unspoken dreams. The old, ivy-clad mansion at the end of Maple Street was the family's sanctuary, a place where secrets were shared over steaming mugs of cocoa and laughter echoed through the halls. But on a seemingly ordinary autumn evening, as the leaves turned to shades of crimson and gold, the serenity of the Watts household was shattered by a silence so profound it seemed to seep into the very fabric of the earth. The town of Willowbrook, once a place where children played without fear and neighbors knew each other by name, was now a scene of shock and disbelief, as the chilling discovery of the Watts family murders cast a dark shadow over the once peaceful community. The bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Watts, along with their 2 young children, were found in the basement, each victim of a brutal and senseless crime. The police arrived to find the scene of horror, the air thick with the scent of death, and the overwhelming sense that something sinister had lurked in the shadows for far too long. As the town grappled with the unimaginable, whispers of a malevolent presence began to circulate, fueling a growing fear that the true horror was only just beginning. In the shrouded streets of a once prosperous town shrouded in the twilight of its glory, the Watts family mansion loomed like a sinister beacon, its iron gates clanging with an ominous echo on the still night air. The rain lashed against the ancient windows, a relentless symphony of despair that seemed to mirror the townsfolk's whispered fears. It was here, amidst the sprawling estate's overgrown gardens and creaking wooden corridors, that the unimaginable had unfolded with a chilling finality. The townspeople spoke in hushed tones of the eerie silence that followed the tragic discovery, a silence that seemed to hold the weight of 1,000 unsolved mysteries. As dawn's pale light struggled to pierce the fog, the Watts family name became synonymous with a horror that would linger in the collective consciousness for generations. The echoes of that fateful night forever etched into the annals of local folklore. In the shadowed crevices of a small, sun-scorched town, nestled in the arid expanse of the Mojave Desert, the Watts family had been a beacon of normalcy, their laughter echoing through the barren streets and their dinner table a haven of warmth and love. But on a night as ordinary as any other, a darkness that had long slumbered beneath the surface of their idyllic existence awakened with a chilling fury, and what was once a tranquil community was forever altered by the unfathomable horror that unfolded within the confines of their modest abode. As the moon hung low and the stars seemed to weep, the Watts family was enveloped in a shroud of tragedy, their lives snuffed out by a hand that reached across the veil of the unknown, leaving behind a trail of devastation that would etch its mark upon the hearts of all who dared to delve into the chilling aftermath. In the heart of the sun-drenched suburbs of Watts, where the hum of lawnmowers and laughter of children painted a picture of idyllic tranquility, the Watts family lived their lives in a bubble of domestic bliss. They were the epitome of American middle-class perfection, with a sprawling two-story home adorned with blooming hydrangeas, a backyard pool that shimmered in the summer sun, and a family car that gleamed like a beacon of prosperity. The Wattses, with their pristine white picket fence and a dog named Max that barked with a loyal bark, were a picture of contentment. Yet, as the golden hues of sunset began to fade and the world settled into a deep, starlit silence, a shroud of dread began to unfurl over the family's perfect facade. In the dead of night, when the only sounds were the whispering leaves and the distant hum of traffic, a series of tragic events would unfold, shattering the peaceful illusion and casting a long, dark shadow over the once happy Watts household. The night of the murders, when the world would never be the same, was about to begin. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets to the old oaks, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of tranquility, their lives a tapestry woven with the threads of love and laughter. The sun-kissed facade of their sprawling estate, nestled between the gentle embrace of the sea and the whispering woods, was a testament to their prosperity and contentment. But as the golden hues of twilight began to paint the sky with strokes of deepening twilight, a shadow loomed over the Watts' idyllic existence, a darkness that would shatter the fragile peace of their world. It was a night when the town's silence was shattered by a scream that echoed through the night, a scream that would become the harbinger of horror, a scream that would echo through the ages, a scream that would change everything. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and a relentless ocean, the Watts family had been a beacon of tranquility for generations. Their sprawling estate, a sprawling labyrinth of ivy-covered walls and grand, oak-paneled halls, had been a sanctuary for the community, a place where laughter echoed through the halls and secrets were whispered with hushed tones. But on a moonless night, when the waves crashed against the shore with a relentless fury, something sinister seeped into the very soul of the Watts manor. The townsfolk awoke to a cacophony of screams, the scent of smoke filling the air, and the sight of flames dancing like devils in the windows of the once hallowed home. As the sun rose, the town found itself grappling with the unimaginable. The Watts family, once the pride of the community, had been reduced to a charred heap of despair, their lives snuffed out in a brutal and senseless act of violence. The townsfolk, once bound by the warmth of the Watts' hospitality, now stood in shock, their eyes wide with disbelief and their hearts heavy with sorrow. The whispers of the night turned into a chorus of questions, each one echoing through the halls of the Watts manor, a place that had once been a haven, now a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk even in the most serene of places. In the hushed town of Willowbrook, where the sun seemed to linger just a touch longer on the golden leaves that adorned the streets, the Watts family lived a life that whispered tales of prosperity and happiness. The family was as tight-knit as the roots of the ancient oak trees that stood guard at the edge of their sprawling estate, each member a thread in the tapestry of their idyllic life. The patriarch, Mr. August Watts, was a man of considerable means, his business acumen and generous spirit earning him the respect of the community. His wife, Eliza, was the epitome of grace and kindness, her laughter a melody that could brighten the darkest of days. Their children, Emma, the oldest, with her fiery red hair and piercing blue eyes, and younger brother Thomas, a boy of boundless energy and dreams, were the pride and joy of their parents. But as the first whispers of autumn began to weave through the crisp air, a chilling breeze of dread swept over Willowbrook, for it was then that the tranquility of the Watts family was shattered by a tragedy that would echo through the ages. One fateful evening, as the moon hung low and the stars shone brightly, The tranquility of the Watts estate was shattered when the sound of glass shattering and screams of terror shattered the night. The once serene home became the stage for a horror that would send shockwaves through the hearts of all who knew the family. The police arrived, their faces etched with concern, and as they combed through the chaos, they discovered the unimaginable, a scene of blood and horror that left them reeling. The Watts family, it seemed, had become the victims of a brutal and senseless crime, and as the town gathered to mourn, whispers of conspiracy and malevolence began to weave through the fabric of their lives. The once vibrant and loving Watts family was now a ghostly shadow of its former self, and the question that haunted every soul in Willowbrook was simple yet haunting. Who could have committed such a heinous act against a family that seemed to embody the very essence of goodness? In the shadowed crevices of a sleepy coastal town, the Watts family had always been a beacon of warmth and laughter, their laughter echoing through the cobbled streets like a melody that seemed to dance with the seagulls. But as the golden hues of twilight began to fade, a storm of darkness descended upon the close-knit community, shattering the illusion of tranquility with a ferocity that left the townsfolk trembling. It was a crisp autumn evening when the Wattses gathered in their cozy living room, the crackling fireplace casting a warm glow upon their smiling faces, unaware that their lives were about to be torn apart by a force far more sinister than the chill in the air. The children, young and carefree, played hide and seek beneath the towering Christmas tree, their laughter mingling with the sound of the wind that howled through the broken windows of the old mansion that had been their home for generations. Their parents, Sarah and Thomas Watts, sat on the couch, their eyes reflecting the flickering flames, lost in a tender moment of reminiscence, their fingers intertwined as if to hold onto the past. Little did they know that the past was about to come roaring back to claim its due, and with it, a wave of terror that would leave the town in a perpetual state of shock and disbelief. The night was young, the stars twinkled brightly, but the Watts family would soon learn that not all darkness is banished by the light of day, and the shadows that danced around them were far more dangerous than any storm that could be conjured by the sea. In the heart of the bustling metropolis of Chicago, where the city's pulse never truly slows, the Watts family lived in a grand Victorian mansion that stood as a beacon of wealth and tranquility. It was a house of secrets, a fortress of opulence, where every corner whispered tales of the prosperous past. Mr. and Mrs. Watts, the parents, were revered in the community, their names synonymous with power and influence. They had 4 children, each one a testament to their success, their laughter echoing through the halls like the sweetest of symphonies. Yet beneath the grandeur of their lives, a dark shadow loomed, an ominous presence that no one could foresee. As the sun dipped below the horizon one fateful night, casting long shadows across the mansion's marble floors, the Watts family would face a horror beyond their wildest nightmares, a horror that would shatter the very foundation of their existence, and forever change the course of history. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless roar of the ocean waves, the Watts family had always been a beacon of normalcy, their home a sanctuary of laughter and warmth. The sun-kissed facade of their quaint bungalow was a testament to their unassuming lives, but beneath the surface, a storm of secrets brewed. As the golden hues of sunset began to fade, casting an eerie glow over the tranquil beach, the town's serenity was shattered by a series of chilling events that would forever alter the fate of the Watts family. First to fall was the matriarch, a woman known for her gentle smile and unwavering support, found slumped in her favorite armchair, a look of shock etched upon her face. The police arrived, their presence a stark contrast to the serene scene, and as they pieced together the puzzle, it became clear that this was no ordinary crime. The second victim was the youngest child, a spirited girl with a penchant for storytelling, discovered in her room, her eyes wide with fear, her lips sealed in an eternal scream. The town was in an uproar, whispers of a serial killer spreading like wildfire, and as the days turned into nights, the remaining Watts family members became the prime suspects. The once peaceful town was now a sea of suspicion, and the Watts name became synonymous with dread. The third to succumb was the patriarch, a man of quiet strength and unwavering resolve, found in the garden, his hands clutching a tattered photograph of his children. The police were baffled, the evidence pointing to a family in turmoil, but the townspeople saw a different story unfolding. The fourth victim was the oldest son, a young man with a promising future, discovered in the attic, his body entwined with vines, a haunting reminder of the natural beauty that surrounded them. The police were relentless, searching for answers, but the more they uncovered, the more they realized that the truth was a labyrinth of lies and deceit. The fifth and final victim was the middle daughter, a young woman with a heart full of dreams, found in the kitchen, her hands stained with blood, her eyes filled with a sorrow that transcended death. The town was in shock, the Watts family a symbol of tragedy, and as the police continued their investigation, they discovered that the family's secrets ran deeper than anyone could have imagined. The Watts family murders were not just a series of senseless crimes. They were a tapestry of love, betrayal, and the darkest of human nature, woven together in a story that would forever echo through the coastal town, a chilling reminder that even the most serene of places could be a breeding ground for the most heinous of acts. In the hushed, sun-dappled streets of a once idyllic coastal town, the Watts family had always been a beacon of warmth and laughter, their laughter echoing through the old, weathered wooden porches of their quaint, century-old home. The children, with their wild, untamed curls and eyes that sparkled with mischief, roamed freely, their laughter mingling with the distant calls of gulls that danced above the crashing waves. But on a chill, foggy morning that seemed to steal the very breath of life from the air, everything changed. The first whisper of dread crept through the town as the Watts family, a family of 5, vanished without a trace, their home now a silent tomb where only the eerie silence of the night dared to intrude. The townsfolk, once united in the joy of community, now found themselves divided by the chilling specter of the unknown, as whispers of a sinister force began to stir beneath the surface of their once peaceful lives. The police arrived, their faces etched with concern and confusion, as they began the grueling task of piecing together the shattered puzzle of the Watts family mystery, unaware that their investigation would lead them down a dark and treacherous path, one that would challenge their very understanding of justice and the human soul. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless roar of the ocean waves, the Watts family lived in a quaint, ivy-clad cottage that seemed to whisper secrets of a bygone era. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting an ethereal glow over the tranquil waters, as the family gathered around the dinner table, laughter mingling with the scent of fresh-baked bread. The matriarch, Eliza Watts, a woman with eyes as blue as the sea, shared stories of her ancestors who had fought the sea's relentless tide for generations. Her children, Sarah, a dreamy-eyed artist, and Thomas, a witty and ambitious lawyer, listened intently, their imaginations painting vivid pictures of the past. Yet, as the night wore on, a shadow began to loom over their idyllic existence, a darkness that would shatter the family's world and unravel the very fabric of their lives. One stormy night, as the wind howled and the rain lashed against the windows, the Watts family would be forever changed, their lives irrevocably altered by a series of chilling events that would send shockwaves through the community and leave behind a legacy of horror and mystery that would echo through the ages. In the heart of a quaint coastal town nestled between rolling hills and the vast, tumultuous ocean, the Watts family had always been a beacon of warmth and unity. The sun-kissed facade of their sprawling Victorian mansion, with its grand porch and towering, ivy-clad walls, was a testament to their prosperity and the idyllic life they led. Inside, the laughter of children echoed through the halls, while the clinking of silverware and the aroma of home-cooked meals filled the air, creating an atmosphere of unbreakable bonds and cherished memories. However, beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect family, a storm was brewing, one that would shatter the very foundation of their lives. It was a storm that began with whispers of discontent, a storm that would culminate in a night of unimaginable horror, a night that would leave the town in shock and the Watts family forever shattered. In the shadowed alleys of a small coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets of the sea, the Watts family had long been the bedrock of the community, their laughter echoing through the streets like a melody of joy. But as twilight descended upon the quaint village, a chilling silence fell, shattering the harmony of the Watts' idyllic life. The once vibrant home, nestled among blooming gardens and towering oaks, now stood as a somber tomb, its windows like hollow eyes reflecting the eerie glow of street lamps. The night was still young, yet the town was gripped by an inexplicable dread, as whispers of a tragic occurrence began to spread like wildfire. The Watts family, a close-knit trio of parents and their 3 children, had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a wake of sorrow and unanswered questions. The town's oldest residents could recall no such tragedy, and the local police were baffled, searching tirelessly for clues in the wake of this heart-wrenching mystery. As the moon climbed higher, casting a pale, ghostly light over the desolate streets, the townsfolk gathered in hushed tones, their eyes reflecting the same fear that gnawed at their very souls. The Watts family murders had become a dark legend, a haunting reminder that even in the most serene of places, the veil between life and death could be as thin as the whisper of a wind. In the sleepy town of Willowbrook, where the golden leaves danced in the crisp autumn breeze, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of domestic tranquility. The sprawling Victorian mansion, with its towering chimneys and grand front porch, stood as a testament to their prosperity. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of freshly baked bread and laughter, as Mrs. Watts presided over her brood with an iron will and a heart full of love. The children, each with their own unique quirks and talents, roamed the halls, their footsteps echoing through the empty rooms. But on the night of October 15th, as the moon hung low and the stars twinkled in the velvet darkness, the Watts family's serene facade shattered into a million terrifying pieces. The first gunshot shattered the silence, a thunderous crack that reverberated through the mansion like a death knell. Mrs. Watts, her heart racing, stumbled into the kitchen, where the youngest child, a cherubic 5-year-old named Lily, clutched a cookie in her tiny hands. "Mama, what's happening?" she whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "Stay here, Lily," Mrs. Watts commanded, her voice trembling as she darted back into the fray, her mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. The second shot echoed through the house, and then the third, each one more jarring than the last. The children, hearing the commotion, poured into the living room, their faces contorted with terror. "Daddy," they cried, their voices rising in pitch. But their father, the patriarch of the Watts family, was nowhere to be seen. The fourth shot came, a gut-wrenching blast that seemed to tear the very fabric of reality asunder. The room fell into silence, save for the distant wail of sirens, a siren song that promised nothing but death. Mrs. Watts collapsed to her knees, her body shaking with sobs as she looked upon the devastation. The bodies of her husband and children lay strewn about the room, pools of blood soaking the plush carpet. The bullets had done their work, leaving nothing but a hollow void where once there had been life. The world had changed in an instant, and in that moment, Mrs. Watts realized that the tranquility she had always cherished was but a fragile illusion, one that had been shattered by the very darkness she had tried to keep at bay. As the first responders arrived, their flashlights cutting through the night, Mrs. Watts was left to grapple with the unimaginable, her world shattered into a million pieces, each one a testament to the unfathomable horror that had befallen the Watts family. In the shadowed corners of a sleepy coastal town nestled between the churning waves of the Atlantic and the towering cliffs that seemed to whisper ancient secrets, the Watts family had always been a beacon of tranquility, their lives a tapestry woven with the threads of hard work, laughter, and the unspoken bond of kinship. The morning sun, a golden thread in the fabric of their days, cast long shadows through the dense canopy of the oak trees that lined their property, a sanctuary where the children played and the parents tended to their gardens. But on a day that promised to be as ordinary as any other, the town was jolted from its slumber by a cacophony of sirens and the eerie silence that followed, as if the very air itself had been strangled by the weight of impending doom. The Watts family, once a symbol of the town's heart, now became the focal point of a chilling mystery that would unravel the very fabric of their lives, shattering the illusion of safety and peace that had been their birthright. The townsfolk, their eyes wide with disbelief and their hearts heavy with sorrow, gathered in hushed tones, whispering tales of the Watts' idyllic existence, a life that had been cruelly and senselessly torn asunder. The first rays of dawn, now tinged with the crimson hues of horror, painted the sky in shades of dread, as the Watts family's secrets, long buried beneath the surface, began to bubble to the surface, revealing a tale of betrayal, greed, and the dark underbelly of human nature that no one could have ever imagined. In the hushed stillness of a moonless night, the once peaceful town of Willowbrook was shattered by the chilling silence of a tragedy that would echo through the ages. The Watts family, known for their quiet lives and unassuming nature, had been a staple of the community, their home a beacon of warmth and love. But as the first light of dawn began to seep through the heavy fog, the town's idyllic facade crumbled into horror when the bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Watts, along with their 3 children, were discovered in their once secure home, each bearing the telltale signs of a brutal attack. The police were called, and as they arrived, the stench of death lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of the darkness that had descended upon the Watts residence. The scene was one of chaos and disbelief, as neighbors and family members gathered in a silent vigil, their eyes wide with shock and sorrow. Among them was Detective Sarah Calloway, a seasoned officer who had seen her fair share of tragedy, but nothing that could prepare her for the depths of horror she was about to uncover. The Watts family murders were about to become one of the most baffling and terrifying cases in the history of Willowbrook, a story that would leave an indelible mark on the town and its residents, forever altering the way they viewed the shadows that lurked in the quiet corners of their lives. In the hushed, sun-drenched town of Maplewood, where the whispering leaves of ancient oaks seemed to hold the secrets of generations, the Watts family had been the embodiment of tranquility, their home a sanctuary of laughter and warmth. But as the golden hues of autumn began to wane, a sinister shadow crept over the idyllic facade. The night of the murders was a chillier affair, a night when the stars seemed to weep tears of blood and the wind howled like a banshee, heralding the arrival of a darkness that would shatter the lives of those who dared to call Maplewood home. It was in this eerie twilight that the tranquility of the Watts household was shattered, as the sound of glass shattering and furniture crashing echoed through the halls, a cacophony of terror that would echo through the years. The bodies of the Watts family, once the heart of the community, now lay strewn about their beloved home, their once peaceful faces contorted in the final, haunting gasps of life. The police arrived like avenging angels, their flashlights cutting through the darkness, their presence a stark contrast to the horror that unfolded before them. The investigation would unravel a tapestry of deceit, betrayal, and unspeakable horror. As the secrets of the Watts family were laid bare for all to see, their lives reduced to a macabre tableau of tragedy. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless roar of the ocean waves, the Watts family had always been a beacon of tranquility, their sprawling estate a sanctuary from the world's chaos. The old mansion, with its moss-covered stone walls and grand, arched windows, stood as a testament to the family's wealth and influence, its gardens a lush paradise that whispered secrets of a bygone era. But on a stormy night when the sky raged with thunder and lightning, a darkness descended upon the Watts estate, shattering the illusion of safety and peace. As the storm raged on, the lives of the Watts family were irrevocably altered, for amidst the fury of nature, a series of heinous crimes unfolded, shrouded in mystery and fear. The townsfolk, once content to live in the shadow of the Watts' opulence, now found themselves gripped by a chilling terror, For the murders of the Watts family were not just a tragedy, they were a harbinger of something far more sinister lurking in the shadows of their once idyllic community. In the shadowed alleys of a city, where the moonlight seemed to cower before the relentless glow of neon signs, the Watts family resided in a house that whispered tales of yesteryears, its ivy-clad walls a testament to a time when life was simpler. The family was a tapestry of secrets, woven together with threads of love and fear, and it was in the heart of this quaint abode that a storm was brewing, one that would shatter the tranquility of the neighborhood and cast a long, dark shadow over the city. It was a night like any other, save for the faint, unsettling hum that seemed to emanate from the depths of the old mansion, when the first scream pierced the night, a sound so raw and desperate it seemed to come from the very soul of the house itself, and thus began the harrowing saga of the Watts family murders. In the heart of a quaint, sleepy town nestled between rolling hills and a tranquil river, the Watts family had always been known for their warmth and hospitality. Their sprawling, ivy-covered mansion, perched atop a hill, was a beacon of comfort and stability in a world that often seemed to spin out of control. But on a crisp autumn evening, as the golden leaves danced in the breeze, the tranquility was shattered by a series of harrowing events that would forever change the lives of those who knew the Wattses. The night was as dark as the hearts of the townsfolk when the first screams echoed through the silent streets, a cacophony of terror that would echo in the minds of everyone who heard it. The Watts family, once a symbol of unity and strength, had become entangled in a web of tragedy and betrayal, a tale of murder and mystery that would grip the town for years to come. The story of the Watts family murders began with a shattering silence, a silence that would soon be filled with the chilling whispers of the past. In the shadowed crevices of a small, picturesque town nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, the Watts family had long been known for their unassuming and tranquil existence. The quaint, colonial home with its peeling paint and overgrown garden seemed to be a relic from another era, untouched by the modern world's chaos. Inside, the Wattses lived a life of quiet contentment, their days filled with the soft clink of teacups and the gentle laughter of children playing hide and seek in the sun-dappled yard. But on a fateful night, as the moon hung low and the stars whispered secrets, the tranquility was shattered by a series of screams that echoed through the silent streets like a dirge. The townsfolk, still half asleep, were jarred awake by the horror that unfolded within the Watts household, where the lives of 5 innocent souls were snuffed out in a cruel and senseless act. The police arrived, their uniforms a stark contrast to the darkness that enveloped the scene, and they found themselves face to face with a mystery that would leave them questioning everything they knew about the seemingly perfect Watts family. The Watts family had been a beacon of normalcy in the small, sleepy town of Maplewood, their quaint colonial home a picture-perfect slice of American life. The days were filled with the laughter of children playing in the lush backyard, the clink of silverware at dinner, and the soft hum of the family's harmonious existence. But beneath the surface, a storm was brewing, a tempest of secrets and darkness that would shatter the idyllic facade. As the sun dipped below the horizon one fateful evening, casting long shadows across the street, a sudden silence enveloped the neighborhood, a silence that was anything but peaceful. It was then, in the dead of night, that the Watts family's perfect world shattered into a million pieces, as a wave of terror washed over Maplewood, leaving behind a trail of blood, grief, and unanswered questions. In the shadowed crevices of the once thriving Watts neighborhood, where the sun seemed to hesitate before dipping below the horizon, the Watts family murders cast a chilling spell over the community. The night was thick with the scent of damp earth and the distant wail of an owl, as if the very air itself held the echoes of the tragedy. The Wattses, a close-knit family of 5, had lived in this quaint little house for decades, their laughter and daily routines blending seamlessly with the neighborhood's heartbeat. But on a fateful evening, as the world seemed to pause, their lives were torn asunder in a horror that would echo through the ages. The streets were silent, save for the eerie silence that enveloped the scene, as the first shattering glass and the anguished screams shattered the night's tranquility. The police arrived to find a scene of unimaginable horror, the bodies of the Wattses lying in a pool of their own blood, each with a bullet hole in their head, as if a vengeful specter had claimed them in a macabre ballet of death. The whispers of the neighborhood turned into murmurs of conspiracy, as the community sought answers in the dark labyrinth of suspicion and fear. The city was gripped by the chilling tale of the Watts family murders, and as the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the truth was a twisted labyrinth of secrets, deceit, and a killer who seemed to dance just beyond the reach of justice. In the heart of the sun-drenched city of San Francisco, where the Golden Gate Bridge gleamed like a beacon against the horizon, the Watts family resided in a sprawling, ivy-clad mansion perched atop a hill overlooking the bustling metropolis. The Watts, a seemingly ordinary family of 5, led lives of quiet affluence, their days filled with the laughter of children and the clink of silverware at dinner parties. Yet beneath the veneer of domestic tranquility, a web of deceit and darkness was slowly weaving itself into their lives, a web that would unravel in a catastrophic fashion. It was a summer evening, the air thick with the scent of blooming jasmine and the distant hum of the city, when the first shadows began to creep into the Watts' otherwise perfect world. In the hushed, overgrown suburbs of Westchester County, where the whispers of yesteryear's affluence lingered like the scent of a forgotten garden, the Watts family lived in a grand estate that seemed to embody the very essence of American dreams. The towering, colonial mansion stood as a sentinel against the encroaching night, its windows glowing like eyes peering into the dark. Inside, the Wattses were a picture of perfection, a family united by love and a seemingly unbreakable bond. Yet, as the moon dipped below the horizon, and the first hints of autumn began to paint the world in hues of red and gold, a shiver of dread crept over the neighborhood. It was the kind of fear that seeped into the very soil, the kind that whispered of dark secrets and the unknown. Little did they know, their serene world was about to shatter into 1,000 pieces as a series of brutal murders began to unravel the fabric of their lives, each crime more chilling than the last, each victim more innocent, and the killer more cunning and elusive than any of them could have ever imagined. In the shadowed alleys of the sprawling metropolis, where the neon lights flickered like a warning sign, the Watts family had been a beacon of normalcy amidst the urban chaos. Their sprawling estate, nestled in a verdant pocket of the city, was a fortress of tranquility, a sanctuary from the relentless pulse of the concrete jungle. But on a stormy night that would forever etch itself into the annals of infamy, the serene facade crumbled into a shambles of horror as a series of inexplicable murders shattered the family's idyllic existence. The first bloodletting was a silent scream, a shadowy figure slipping into the mansion's grand foyer, a weapon clutched in hand, and with a single, swift motion, slicing through the night's silence. The second death was a whisper, a figure collapsing into a heap on the marble staircase, a pool of crimson seeping through the plush carpet like an ominous omen. And then, as the storm raged on, the third, fourth, and fifth murders unfolded in a macabre ballet of death, each more surreal than the last, leaving behind a trail of bodies and a chorus of unanswered questions. The city's finest investigators were baffled, the Watts family's name becoming synonymous with dread and the unknown. Yet, amidst the chaos, a glimmer of hope emerged from the darkness, a lone detective with a penchant for the arcane, determined to unravel the twisted tapestry of these chilling events and bring solace to the shattered lives of the Watts family. In the quaint town of Willow Creek, where the whispering pines danced in the gentle breeze and the old oak trees stood like silent sentinels, the Watts family had always been a cornerstone of the community, their home a beacon of warmth and joy. The family patriarch, Mr. John Watts, a grizzled ex-Marine with a heart as big as his hands, ran the local hardware store, while his wife, Mrs. Clara Watts, a retired schoolteacher with a gentle smile and a penchant for baking, kept the hearth alight with her famous apple pies. Their children, Emma, a sprightly young woman with dreams of becoming a detective, and young William, a mischievous boy with an insatiable curiosity, roamed the lush meadows behind the house, playing hide and seek amidst the wildflowers. Yet, as the golden leaves began to turn, and the air grew crisp with the approach of autumn, a shroud of dread descended upon the Watts family, as the tranquility of their home was shattered by a series of harrowing events that would forever change the fabric of their lives. The first ominous sign came on a chilling October night, when the town was thrown into an abyss of terror as a scream echoed through the streets, a scream that would be the prelude to a nightmare that none could have anticipated, a nightmare that would unravel the carefully woven tapestry of the Watts family, leaving behind a tapestry of horror and heartbreak. In the shadowed alleys of a city long forgotten by the sun, the Watts family resided in a sprawling mansion that whispered tales of old money and forgotten glories. The air was thick with the scent of ivy and the distant hum of traffic, a stark contrast to the somber elegance of the estate. The mansion, a grandiose relic of a bygone era, stood as a silent sentinel, its windows like hollow eyes watching over the lives of its inhabitants. The Watts family, a brood of 7, were a curious mix of eccentricity and wealth, their lives a tapestry woven with threads of privilege and peril. At the heart of this enigmatic family was the matriarch, Elspeth Watts, a woman of formidable intellect and a penchant for the dramatic, whose every word was a whispered secret, and whose every action was a carefully orchestrated performance. Her children, a motley crew of prodigies, rebels, and dreamers, each sought to carve their own path in the world, yet none could escape the suffocating grip of their family's dark legacy. It was on a stormy night, when the winds howled like the ghosts of the past, that the Watts mansion became the stage for a tragedy that would shake the very foundations of their world, a tragedy that would unravel the family's secrets and force them to confront the darkness that had been lurking in the shadows all along. In the heart of a once idyllic town nestled between rolling hills and a serene lake, the Watts family had always been known for their warm smiles and close-knit bonds. The streets were lined with their cherished memories, from the laughter echoing through the playground to the scent of freshly baked cookies that seemed to linger in the air. Little did the townsfolk know that beneath the surface, a dark storm was brewing, one that would shatter the tranquility of their peaceful community. One crisp autumn evening, as the golden hues of sunset painted the sky, the Watts family gathered in their cozy living room, unaware that their lives were about to be torn apart by a sequence of events that would leave an indelible mark on the town's history. The evening was punctuated by the soothing sound of a gentle breeze rustling the leaves outside, and the family shared stories of their ancestors, their eyes twinkling with nostalgia. But as the night wore on, the warmth of their laughter was replaced by a silence that felt suffocating, a prelude to the chilling revelations that were about to unfold. The storm had arrived, and it was not just the weather that would change everything. In the shadowed heart of a once prosperous coastal town, the Watts family had long been a beacon of community harmony, their sprawling estate a testament to wealth and success. The family patriarch, Harold Watts, was a revered businessman, while his wife, Eliza, was a beloved figure in local circles, known for her philanthropy and grace. Their children, each with their own aspirations and dreams, moved through life with a sense of security, believing their family to be immune to the darker currents that sometimes surged beneath the surface of seemingly perfect lives. But on a stormy night, as the winds howled and the rain lashed against the windows, a darkness descended upon the Watts estate that would forever change the course of their lives. A series of chilling discoveries would unravel the very fabric of their family, revealing a tapestry of secrets and betrayals that had been woven in the shadows of their seemingly idyllic existence. As the town watched in horror, the Watts family murders became the stuff of local legend, a cautionary tale of the fragility of trust and the depths to which even the most well-respected among us might fall. In the hushed, fog-enshrouded town of Willow Creek, where the whispering willows and the murmuring brooks seemed to hold secrets even the bravest souls dared not disturb. The Watts family had long been a beacon of community harmony. The matriarch Elspeth Watts, a woman of gentle grace and unyielding strength, presided over her sprawling estate with a warmth that seemed to envelop the very essence of the town. Her children, the 4 siblings known as the Watts Wonders, were a testament to her nurturing spirit, each excelling in their unique talents: music, art, literature, and science. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a crimson glow over the verdant fields, the idyllic facade of the Watts family began to unravel, and the chilling whispers of the willows grew louder with each passing night. For in the depths of the moonlit nights, amidst the clinking of crystal chandeliers and the laughter of the Watts Wonders, a malevolent force lurked, a force that would shatter the very foundation of their lives and plunge Willow Creek into a darkness from which there would be no return. In the quaint, picturesque town of Willowbrook, where the gentle hum of the old oak trees seemed to whisper secrets of generations past, the Watts family had always been a cornerstone of community life. The sun-drenched streets echoed with laughter from the children who played in the lush, overgrown backyard of the sprawling, white-columned mansion that had been in the family for over a century. But as the golden hues of sunset painted the sky in strokes of crimson and lavender, a darkness began to creep into the idyllic facade. It was the summer of 1985 when the town was forever altered by the chilling discovery of the Watts family murders. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows across the mansion's grand portico, the once harmonious symphony of the Watts home was replaced by a cacophony of terror and sorrow. The mansion, which had stood as a beacon of prosperity and stability, now seemed to breathe with an ominous, sinister life of its own. The bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Watts, along with their 3 young children, were found sprawled across the polished hardwood floors, their lifeless eyes staring up at the ceiling like haunting portraits of innocence lost. The townsfolk were left in a state of shock, their once tranquil lives shattered by the violent end of the Watts family. The local sheriff, a grizzled veteran with a weathered face and a heart as heavy as the stone that lined the town square, was called to the scene. As he stepped through the grand front door, the air seemed to grow colder, the shadows more ominous. The mansion, once a sanctuary of warmth and laughter, now felt like a tomb, its silent halls echoing with the cries of the lost. The Watts family murders would become a chilling chapter in the annals of Willowbrook's history, a tale of tragedy and mystery that would linger in the hearts and minds of its residents for generations to come. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets to the ancient oaks, the Watts family had always been a beacon of tranquility, their home a sanctuary of laughter and love. The sun-kissed facade of their sprawling estate, nestled against the rugged cliffs, was a testament to their prosperity and the unspoken bond that tied them together. But as the golden hues of twilight began to paint the sky in hues of crimson and lavender, a shadow began to loom over the Watts family, a darkness that would shatter the illusion of their idyllic existence. It was a night like any other, the moon a silent sentinel hanging low in the sky, when the tranquility was shattered by a cacophony of screams that echoed through the night, a sound so piercing and haunting that it would forever be etched into the collective memory of the town. The police arrived on the scene, their flashing lights slicing through the darkness like a knife, and what they found would unravel the fabric of their lives, revealing a web of deceit, betrayal, and a chilling truth that would shake the very core of their community. In the shadowed alleyways of a quaint coastal town, the Watts family had thrived for generations, their name synonymous with prosperity and respectability. The sun rose and set over the sprawling estate, its majestic mansion a beacon of wealth and elegance. But on a crisp autumn morning, as the golden leaves danced in the breeze, a chill descended upon the town like a dark shroud. It was a day like any other, save for the faintest whisper of unease that had taken root in the hearts of the townsfolk. Little did they know, the tranquility of the Watts estate was about to shatter into 1,000 shattered pieces as the unspeakable horror unfolded. unraveling the very fabric of their lives and leaving an indelible mark on the collective memory of the town. The whispers grew louder, the secrets of the mansion's dark corners began to surface, and the Watts family was soon to become a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that even in the most picturesque settings, the line between peace and chaos is eternally thin. In the shadowy alleys of Victorian London, where gaslight flickered like spectral flames, the Watts family lay in ruins, a tapestry of terror unraveling with each shattering hour. It began on a tranquil Saturday morning, when the sun rose like a golden eye from behind the smudged glass of their grand townhouse, a beacon of warmth that failed to pierce the chill that clung to the hearts of the Wattses. Lady Elspeth Watts, a woman of refined poise and porcelain beauty, stirred from her slumber, her eyes widening as she noticed her husband, Sir Reginald, slumped lifelessly on the ornate mahogany chair, a crimson trail painting the once pristine white carpet. The sound of the doorbell shattered the silence, a shrill alarm that sliced through the morning fog, but it was too late for Lady Elspeth, whose heart, once a steady drumbeat, now faltered like a broken metronome. Rushing to the door, she opened it to find a disheveled butler, his eyes wide with terror, his voice a mere whisper as he gasped, "Mistress Watts, the children." His words were cut off as he stumbled backwards, a gash on his forehead seeping blood into his eyes, and he collapsed to the floor, the door crashing shut behind him. Lady Elspeth's heart dropped into an abyss as she spun around to confront the horror that awaited her, her mind racing with questions and the overwhelming sensation that time itself had stopped. The air was thick with dread, and the silence that followed felt suffocating as she crept down the grand staircase, her footsteps echoing like the distant roar of an approaching tempest. The drawing room loomed ahead, its opulent interior a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding within. The butler lay sprawled on the floor, his body still, and from the open window, a haunting wail pierced the morning air, a siren song of death that seemed to beckon her closer. With trembling hands, she pushed the heavy curtains aside, her eyes darting across the room in search of her children, the youngest of whom, a cherubic little girl named Eliza, was nowhere to be seen. A shiver ran down her spine as she realized that she had become the sole witness to the greatest tragedy in the history of London's high society, and that her name, once a symbol of elegance and grace, was about to be etched into the annals of infamy as the Watts family murders became the subject of whispered legends and endless speculation. In the quaint, sun-dappled town of Maplewood, where laughter echoed through the streets and the scent of blooming jasmine lingered in the air, the Watts family had been a beacon of warmth and happiness, their laughter a familiar tune to all who passed by their cozy, ivy-covered cottage. But on the crisp morning of October 15, 1973, the serene tranquility was shattered by a tragedy that would echo through the years, a sequence of chilling murders that left the community reeling and the Watts family in shambles. Detective Sam Harper, with his piercing blue eyes and a weathered face etched with countless cases, arrived at the scene to find the once peaceful home now draped in the heavy tapestry of sorrow. The bodies of Mrs. Evelyn Watts and her 3 children, 12-year-old Emily, 10-year-old Joshua, and 7-year-old Lily, lay scattered in a macabre tableau, their eyes wide with shock, their faces frozen in the final moments of their lives. The police had found no signs of forced entry, no struggle, nothing to indicate a simple break-in. The only clue was a cryptic note found in the kitchen, a message written in blood that seemed to beckon the town toward a dark and twisted path. As the investigation unfolded, the townsfolk whispered tales of the old, abandoned mansion on the edge of town, where strange occurrences had been reported for decades. The Watts family had moved to Maplewood just a year before, drawn by the promise of a fresh start, unaware that their lives were about to be ensnared in a web of mystery and dread. With each passing day, the town grew more divided, some believing the crimes were the work of a deranged individual, while others whispered of a malevolent force that had finally found its way to Maplewood. Detective Harper, driven by an unwavering sense of justice and a gut-wrenching determination to uncover the truth, delved deeper into the lives of the Watts family, seeking answers in the shadows of their seemingly perfect existence. And as the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the murders were not the end, but the beginning of a harrowing odyssey that would leave an indelible mark on the very soul of Maplewood. In the shadowed alleys of a city long forgotten by the sun, the Watts family resided in a creaky, Victorian mansion that whispered tales of yesteryear. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the distant hum of the city's relentless heartbeat. The family, a brood of 8, lived in a web of secrets and whispered fears, bound together by blood and the suffocating silence that clung to their home like a second skin. The patriarch, a grizzled man named Silas Watts, ruled with an iron fist, his eyes like cold, dead coals that seemed to burn through the walls of the house. His children, a motley crew of misfits and outcasts, each bore the weight of their own dark secrets, their laughter a hollow echo that echoed through the halls. But on a night shrouded in the eerie glow of a full moon, the tranquility of the Watts mansion was shattered by a series of chilling murders that left the city in shock and the family in a shroud of terror. The police, baffled and weary, delved into the twisted lives of the Watts, only to uncover a web of deceit and horror that would change the course of their investigation forever. In the eerie silence of a small coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and a relentless ocean, the Watts family had been known for their peculiar seclusion and eccentricities. The locals whispered tales of Mr. Watts, a reclusive artist whose canvases were said to hold the secrets of his tragic past. His wife, Mrs. Watts, was a woman of quiet grace, her laughter as rare as a sunset on the fog-draped cliffs. Their children, 3 in all, were the epitome of innocence, their laughter echoing through the halls of their old, ivy-clad mansion like a haunting melody. Yet, beneath the serene facade, dark storm clouds were brewing. As the full moon rose on the night of the solstice, a force beyond human understanding seemed to awaken, and the Watts family, forever bound by an ancient curse, would pay the ultimate price as their lives were shattered by a series of mysterious and chilling murders that would leave the entire town shrouded in fear, and the world questioning the very nature of evil itself. In the heart of the sun-drenched city of Los Angeles, where the glittering streets whispered tales of Hollywood dreams and the relentless pulse of urban life, the Watts family lived a life that seemed ordinary yet harbored dark secrets beneath its shiny veneer. It was a summer night as the golden hues of sunset began to fade, casting long shadows across the neighborhood, when the tranquil facade of the Watts residence was shattered by a cacophony of screams that pierced the night like a knife through the soul. The once serene home, nestled among the sprawling eucalyptus trees, was now a scene of horror as the chilling silence that followed those screams revealed the heart-wrenching truth. The Watts family, a seemingly close-knit unit, had been torn apart by a series of heinous murders that would leave the entire city reeling. The police arrived at the scene, their sirens a stark reminder of the chaos that had unfolded, only to find themselves amidst a labyrinth of secrets, deceit, and a family history steeped in mystery that would test the very limits of human endurance. In the shadowy, rain-soaked streets of the sprawling metropolis, the Watts family had been a beacon of warmth and love, their laughter echoing through the narrow alleys and into the heart of the city. But as night fell, a dark storm was brewing, one that would shatter the tranquility of their home and leave the once thriving community in shambles. It was a chilling October evening when the eerie silence was broken by the shrill of police sirens, their wails piercing through the cold mist that clung to the cobblestone streets. Inside the Watts mansion, the family gathered in the grand living room, unaware of the impending doom that loomed over them. The head of the family, Thomas Watts, a distinguished lawyer with a silver-streaked beard and piercing blue eyes, had always been a man of unwavering integrity and strength. Beside him sat his wife, Elizabeth, a graceful woman with a warm smile and a heart as kind as the sun, her golden hair cascading down her shoulders like a river of sunlight. Their children, Sarah, the eldest, a brilliant young artist with a penchant for the dramatic, and twins, Michael and Emily, were the epitome of innocence and mischief, their youthful energy a stark contrast to the somber atmosphere that had enveloped the room. It was during this somber family gathering that the first ominous crack in their perfect facade began to form, as the front door burst open and the police officers, their faces etched with concern and shock, pushed their way into the mansion, their eyes scanning the room for any sign of the missing son, Jonathan. The Watts family, caught in the crosshairs of a mysterious killer who seemed to be watching them, were about to embark on a harrowing journey that would test the very fabric of their family bonds and challenge their deepest fears. In the heart of a once idyllic suburban town, where lawns were meticulously trimmed and neighbors knew each other by name, the Watts family lived in a house that stood as a beacon of normalcy. It was a modest 2-story home with white picket fences, a swing set in the backyard, and a garage filled with toys and bicycles. Inside, the family of 5 was a picture of domestic bliss, parents who doted on their 3 children, and children who adored their parents. But on a seemingly ordinary autumn evening, as the golden leaves rustled down from the trees, the tranquility of the Watts household was shattered by a series of tragic events that would forever change the fabric of the community. The streetlights flickered to life as the first police sirens wailed through the night, their blaring sirens piercing the silence like a scream from the depths of hell. The neighbors, who had never known anything but the gentle hum of everyday life, now stood in their driveways, their eyes wide with shock and disbelief as they witnessed the eerie glow of flashing blue lights in the Watts' front yard. The police had arrived, and with them came the grim reality that would soon shatter the illusion of safety that had long been the foundation of their lives. The Watts family murders were about to unfold, and with each passing moment, the once peaceful town would be plunged into a nightmarish abyss from which it would never recover. In the heart of a quiet suburban neighborhood, where the scent of blooming jasmine and the chirping of crickets painted a serene picture of domestic tranquility, the Watts family had long been known for their warm smiles and friendly demeanor. Yet beneath the sun-kissed facade of their cozy 2-story home, a dark storm brewed, a tempest of secrets and shadows that would soon shatter the illusion of peace. It was a warm summer evening when the tranquility was shattered, when the night sky turned an ominous shade of gray, and the Watts family became entangled in a web of murder and mystery that would forever change the course of their lives. As the first rays of dawn began to creep over the horizon, the tranquil community was jolted into a state of shock and disbelief, for the Watts residence had become the scene of a heinous crime, a tragedy that would soon captivate the nation and unravel the lives of the family members who once lived in harmony within their well-manicured garden. In the shadowy confines of a quaint, sleepy town nestled in the heart of rural America, the Watts family had been known for their idyllic existence, a beacon of tranquility amidst the relentless march of time. The quaint, white picket-fenced abode on Maple Street was a picture of domestic bliss, with the scent of fresh-baked cookies wafting through the air and the laughter of children echoing through the evening twilight. Yet beneath the surface, a storm brewed, one that would shatter the very fabric of their lives, leaving a trail of destruction and despair. The town of Willowbrook, once a haven of harmony, was about to be thrust into the throes of a harrowing nightmare as whispers of impending doom began to circulate through the cobblestone streets, casting a sinister pall over the otherwise peaceful community. Little did the townsfolk know that the night would bring with it a wave of tragedy that would rock their world to its core, forever altering the fate of the Watts family and the lives of everyone who called Willowbrook home. In the sleepy town of Willow Creek, nestled between rolling hills and whispering woods, the Watts family had always been known for their quaint charm and close-knit bond. Their sprawling estate, with its ivy-covered walls and sprawling gardens, was a beacon of domestic tranquility in a world often fraught with chaos. However, on the somber night of the silver moon, As the stars above waltzed through the velvet sky, the serene facade of the Watts residence was shattered by a cacophony of terror that would echo through the ages. As the moon hung heavy in the heavens, a cold breeze danced through the trees, whispering secrets to the night, and in the heart of the mansion, the silence was suddenly pierced by a sound that could only be described as a primal scream, one that would rend the very fabric of reality. The town awoke to find itself in the grip of a mystery that would test its very soul, a mystery that began with the discovery of the Watts family, their lives snuffed out like candles in the dead of night, their blood a chilling testament to the darkness that had descended upon Willow Creek. In the heart of a bustling metropolis, where the towering skyscrapers whispered secrets to the wind, the Watts family had lived their lives in an ordinary bubble, blissfully unaware of the dark storm that was about to engulf their serene world. The Wattses, a close-knit clan of 5, including parents James and Evelyn, and their 3 children, teenager Emily, preteen Jacob, and the youngest, 10-year-old Lily, had always prided themselves on their simple, unassuming lifestyle. Their grand, Victorian home, nestled in a picturesque neighborhood, was the cornerstone of their happiness, a sanctuary where laughter echoed through the halls and the scent of homemade bread filled the air. But as the sun dipped below the horizon one ominous evening, the tranquility of the Watts household was shattered by a series of events that would come to be known as the Watts family murders, a chilling tragedy that left the entire city in a state of shock and disbelief. As night fell, a shadowy figure emerged from the shadows, a vengeful specter fueled by an ancient grudge that had festered in the darkest corners of the city's underbelly. That night, the Watts family's bubble would burst, and their lives would be forever entwined with the chilling legacy of the murders that would send shivers down the spines of every resident for years to come. In the shadowed alleyways of the decaying city of Ashwood, where the fog clung to the cobblestone streets like a ghostly shroud, the Watts family resided in a dilapidated mansion that whispered tales of old. The once grand estate had seen better days, its once stately facade now marred by peeling paint and broken windows. But to the Wattses, it was their sanctuary, a place where love and laughter once thrived. But as the days turned to nights, the laughter faded, replaced by the chilling silence that whispered of impending doom. The family, led by the enigmatic matriarch, Mrs. Evelyn Watts, had long been a subject of local lore, their reclusive nature fueling whispers of wealth and scandal. It was a place where secrets were buried deep, and the truth lay hidden beneath the weight of years, waiting for the moment it would be unearthed, a moment that would shatter the fragile veil of normalcy and plunge the Watts family into a nightmare from which there would be no waking. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets to the ancient oaks, the Watts family had been a beacon of warmth and laughter, their home a sanctuary where dreams were woven into the fabric of everyday life. But on a chilling autumn evening, as the golden leaves danced in the twilight, a shroud of darkness descended upon the once peaceful streets. The town's heart raced with fear as whispers of a tragedy spread like wildfire. The Watts family, known for their kind smiles and generous spirits, had fallen victim to a heinous crime. The night had been quiet, save for the distant howl of a lone wolf, when the first screams shattered the serenity, a cacophony that would echo through the years. The townspeople, bound by a web of interconnected lives, were now bound by a shared horror as they discovered The Chinese letter scene that had been meticulously orchestrated to erase the Watts family from existence. The police arrived, their uniforms a stark contrast to the macabre tableau before them, and as they pieced together the puzzle of the murders, the townsfolk clung to the hope that justice would prevail, that the truth would rise from the ashes of this unimaginable atrocity. In the heart of the bustling city of Midtown, where the hum of neon signs danced with the clatter of street vendors, the Watts family lived in a sprawling mansion that seemed to loom over the neighborhood like a fortress. The mansion was a marvel of architecture, its grandiose columns and ornate iron gates whispering tales of wealth and power. Inside, the Wattses reveled in their opulence, each room a testament to their affluence, from the gilded salon with its towering crystal chandeliers to the sun-drenched conservatory filled with exotic plants and vibrant flowers. But beneath the surface of this idyllic existence, a dark storm brewed, one that would soon shatter the delicate facade of the Watts family dynasty. The night of the murders was a chilling prelude to a tale of greed, deceit, and betrayal, as the mansion's walls echoed with the cries of those whose lives were cruelly snuffed out in the blink of an eye. In the hushed, sun-drenched town of Willow Creek, where the whispering willows lined the narrow streets and the scent of pine filled the air, the Watts family lived a life of unassuming normalcy. The matriarch, Mrs. Evelyn Watts, was a woman of grace and warmth, her hands always busy with the daily chores of their modest home. Her husband, Mr. Henry Watts, was a local mechanic, his shop filled with the clatter of grease and the hum of machinery, a sanctuary for the townsfolk. Together they raised their 3 children, Sarah, a dreamy-eyed artist, Thomas, a quiet boy with a passion for books, and Lily, the youngest, a bundle of energy and laughter. But on a tranquil Saturday afternoon, when the sun dipped low and the shadows stretched long, the tranquility of Willow Creek was shattered by a horror that would echo through the years. A horror that began with a knock at the door, a knock that would change everything. In the shadowed crevices of a small, otherwise idyllic coastal town, the Watts family, a close-knit unit of 5, had always been known for their serene existence, their laughter echoing through the sun-drenched streets like the gentle waves that lapped at the rocky shore. But on a crisp autumn evening, as the golden leaves began to carpet the sidewalks, a darkness unfurled over the town like a shroud, as the Watts family, in a harrowing twist of fate, became entangled in a web of unspeakable tragedy. The evening sky, once a vibrant tapestry of crimson hues, now hung heavy and ominous, as the townsfolk, oblivious to the impending storm, went about their daily routines. Inside the cozy, ivy-clad home of the Watts family, a sense of unease began to ripple through the walls as the clock struck midnight and a chilling silence descended upon the house. It was then, amidst the quietude, that the first shadowy figure slipped through the back door, a silent sentinel, cloaked in mystery and malevolence, ready to shatter the tranquility of the Watts family and leave an indelible mark on the town's history. In the eerie gloom of a moonless night, the Watts family mansion loomed like a sinister fortress on the outskirts of the sleepy town of Willowbrook. The grand estate, once a beacon of prosperity and joy, now stood abandoned, its once lush gardens overtaken by an invasive thicket of wildflowers. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of decay and the haunting echoes of laughter long stilled. It was a place where secrets festered beneath the surface, a place where the line between the living and the dead seemed as thin as the paper in an old diary. The town had whispered tales of the Watts family for generations, stories that painted a portrait of a wealthy and enigmatic clan whose fortune had turned to dust under mysterious circumstances. The murders, unsolved and unspoken, had become part of the local folklore, a dark legend that no one dared to confront. Yet, on this chilling night, a curious young historian named Evelyn Carter found herself drawn to the mansion's shadowy allure, determined to uncover the truth behind the tragic events that had torn the Watts family apart, little knowing that her quest would lead her into a harrowing labyrinth of lies, deceit, and a fate far more sinister than she could ever have imagined. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between the cliffs and the churning sea, the Watts family had always been a beacon of normalcy. There lives a tapestry of sunlit days and quiet evenings. The children, with their rosy cheeks and boundless curiosity, played in the lush gardens that bordered their quaint cottage, while the parents, with their gentle smiles and warm laughter, welcomed neighbors with open arms. But on a crisp autumn evening, as the golden leaves danced in the breeze, the tranquility was shattered by a silence so profound it seemed to echo the very depths of despair. The townsfolk awoke to the harrowing news. The Watts family, once a symbol of the community's heart, had been found in their home, each member of the family, from the oldest to the youngest, vanished without a trace, leaving behind a trail of questions that would unravel the very fabric of their serene world. In the shrouded dusk of a relentless summer evening, the Watts family mansion loomed like a sinister beacon against the encroaching twilight, its once majestic facade now marred by a tapestry of fear and tragedy. The air was thick with the scent of humidity and decay, a prelude to the horror that was about to unfold within its hallowed halls. Inside, the family had gathered for a routine dinner, oblivious to the storm that was brewing outside. Mother Watts, a woman of elegance and grace, presided over the table with a delicate smile. Her children, a brood of 5, each with their own unique traits and dreams, clung to her like moths to a flame. Father Watts, the pillar of the family, had just returned from a grueling day at work, his usually calm demeanor frayed at the edges by the relentless pace of his responsibilities. As they broke bread together, the hum of normalcy was shattered by the sudden, violent crack of breaking glass, a sound that echoed through the mansion like the final, chilling breath of a dying beast. The Watts family, bound by blood and duty, were about to confront a terror that would shatter their lives forever, a night that would become the stuff of legend and dread, a tale of unimaginable horror that would echo through the ages like a scream lost in the mists of time. In the hushed and shadowed town of Willow Creek, where the whispering winds carried tales of old and the night air seemed to hum with secrets, the Watts family resided in a sprawling mansion that seemed to loom over the landscape like a dark specter. The family, known for their wealth and influence, lived in opulence, their every move scrutinized and envied by the townsfolk. The patriarch Thomas Watts, a man of towering presence and commanding demeanor, ruled over his empire with an iron fist, while his wife, Eliza, a socialite with a penchant for hosting lavish soirees, kept the public facade intact. Their children, each more beautiful and privileged than the last, moved through the mansion with a sense of entitlement, unaware of the storm brewing within their seemingly perfect lives. But as the days turned into weeks and whispers of impending doom began to echo through the halls, the Watts family would soon find themselves at the mercy of a sinister force that would shatter their world and leave a trail of horror in its wake. The town of Willow Creek would never be the same, for the murders of the Watts family were about to unfold, each death more grotesque and senseless than the last, as the chilling truth of the family's secrets slowly unraveled and exposed the darkest corners of their souls. In the shadowed alleys of the once vibrant Watts neighborhood, the air hung heavy with the scent of decay and the whispers of a tragedy that had left an indelible mark on the community. The Watts family, once a beacon of hope and prosperity, had become synonymous with a horror that would echo through the ages. It was a summer night that promised to be as ordinary as any other, but as the moon climbed into the sky, the tranquility of the neighborhood was shattered by a cacophony of screams that would forever haunt the souls of those who heard it. Amidst the chaos, the police arrived to find the remnants of a crime so heinous that it would challenge the very fabric of justice. The Watts family, once a tight-knit unit of 5, had been reduced to a Chinese letter of death and despair, each member a victim of a brutal murder that seemed to have no motive, no rhyme or reason. The city was in shock, the nation was aghast, and the Watts family's name became a byword for the unspeakable. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the truth was as elusive as the killer himself, and the city of Watts was left to grapple with the grim reality that the monster among them had been hiding in plain sight, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. In the hushed, rain-soaked town of Maplewood, where the streets whispered secrets of yesteryear and the night air carried the faint scent of lilacs, the Watts family resided in a sprawling, ivy-clad mansion that loomed like a fortress against the encroaching darkness. It was there, behind the high stone walls and iron gates, that the chilling saga of the Watts family murders began to unfold. The town had long been a tapestry of quaint charm and close-knit community, but now, the once tranquil streets were rife with dread and whispers of a dark force that had taken root within the Watts sanctuary. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a spectral glow over the property. The mansion's windows flickered with the eerie dance of shadows, and the faint sound of laughter, hollow and unsettling, echoed through the empty halls. The family, once the epitome of prosperity and happiness, was now shrouded in mystery and tragedy, with each room echoing the echoes of their final moments. The townsfolk spoke in hushed tones, their eyes darting nervously to the mansion's imposing silhouette as they tried to make sense of the horror that had befallen the Watts family, leaving behind a wake of unanswered questions and a haunting legacy that would forever stain the town's reputation. In the shadowed crevices of a quaint, picturesque town nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, the Watts family had been a beacon of warmth and laughter, their laughter echoing through the sun-dappled streets like the cheerful melody of a wind chime. The family, consisting of the doting parents, the boisterous twins, and the precocious youngest, lived in a charming, ivy-covered cottage that seemed to whisper secrets of a bygone era. The children, with their boundless energy and infectious smiles, were the heart of the community, their youthful antics a daily source of amusement for all who knew them. But as the golden hues of autumn gave way to the somber grays of winter, a shroud of dread began to descend upon the once happy household. One chilling night, as the town slumbered in the embrace of slumber, a silent killer crept through the underbrush, his presence as ominous as the howling winds that swept through the woods. The Watts family, unaware of the danger lurking in the darkness, would soon face a fate far more sinister than the worst nightmare they could ever imagine. In the heart of a picturesque coastal town nestled between cliffs and the churning sea, the Watts family had been the epitome of domestic tranquility for generations. The family's sprawling mansion, with its lush gardens and sprawling lawn, was a beacon of wealth and comfort in a world that seemed to shun such ostentation. But as twilight began to cast a melancholic glow over the tranquil bay, a sense of unease began to ripple through the once harmonious family. The Watts mansion, a place of laughter and warmth, was about to be forever altered by a series of events that would leave the townsfolk in shock and the nation in disbelief. It was on this fateful night that the whispers of the past, the echoes of old grudges, and the secrets hidden beneath the surface would bubble to the surface, unraveling the tapestry of the Watts family's serene facade and setting the stage for a chilling tale of murder, mystery, and the dark underbelly of human nature. In the shadowy depths of a small, otherwise unassuming town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, the Watts family lived a life as ordinary as the soil they tilled. Their quaint home, a modest abode with a weathered wooden fence, was a sanctuary of warmth and laughter, where the days were filled with the clatter of pots and pans in the kitchen and the soft hum of children's voices echoing through the hallways. The family's heart and soul were the children, with their rambunctious energy and boundless curiosity, and the parents, with their unwavering love and dedication to nurturing their offspring. Yet beneath the surface of this idyllic existence, a darkness was brewing, an ominous presence that would shatter the fragile peace of the Watts family and cast a long, sinister shadow over the town. One stormy night, as the first whispers of dread began to ripple through the community, the Watts family's lives were irrevocably altered, and the secrets they harbored would emerge to reveal a harrowing tale of murder, mystery, and the chilling truth that sometimes the most innocent-seeming people can harbor the most heinous of secrets. In the eerie silence of a small, sun-drenched coastal town nestled between rolling hills and the relentless Atlantic waves, the Watts family had been living a seemingly idyllic life. The sun-drenched patio of their quaint seaside cottage was a canvas of laughter and warmth, where children played tag with the seagulls and parents shared stories of sunsets over the ocean. But beneath the facade of this perfect family portrait, darkness was brewing. One stormy night, as the sky painted itself with shades of crimson and violet, the Watts family would be forever etched into the annals of horror. The townsfolk would soon whisper tales of the tragic events that unfolded, a tapestry of murder, betrayal, and unspeakable horror that would shatter the serenity of their little haven. The storm had raged for hours, and the winds howled with a fury that threatened to tear the very fabric of the town apart. But none could have predicted the chilling aftermath that would leave the Watts family name synonymous with the most heinous of crimes. In the heart of a quaint coastal town, nestled between the whispering tides and the towering pines, the Watts family had always been a beacon of community harmony. Their home, a sprawling Victorian mansion with a wraparound porch, was a sanctuary of laughter and love, where the scent of blooming jasmine mingled with the salty breeze. But on a fateful night, when the moon hung like a silver coin in the velvet sky, the Watts family's idyllic existence was shattered by a series of chilling murders that left the town in shock and the nation in mourning. The bodies of the Wattses, including the patriarch, matriarch, and their 3 children, were discovered in their home, each bearing the telltale signs of a brutal attack. The police were baffled, the community in despair, and as the investigation unfolded, a web of secrets and lies began to unravel, revealing a dark underbelly that had been hidden in plain sight. The story of the Watts family murders was one that would echo through the ages, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the treachery that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most seemingly perfect households. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless roar of the ocean waves, the Watts family lived in a quaint, ivy-clad cottage that seemed to whisper secrets of a bygone era. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the tranquil waters, as the family gathered around the fireplace, their laughter mingling with the crackling logs. But as the night deepened, a shadow began to loom over their seemingly perfect life, a darkness that would shatter the illusion of their idyllic existence. It was a cold, moonless night when the first scream shattered the silence, a sound so piercing it seemed to echo through the very fabric of time. And the Watts family, once a beacon of warmth and happiness, became entangled in a web of mystery and horror that would leave an indelible mark on the town's history. In the heart of a sun-drenched California suburb, where the golden glow of the afternoon sun painted the world in hues of amber and ochre, the Watts family lived a life that seemed as ordinary as the rows of identical houses that lined their street. The family, consisting of the doting parents, Sarah and Tom Watts, and their 3 children, Emily, aged 10, Jack, 7, and little Lily, who was just 5, had everything they could ever dream of: a beautiful home, a lush garden, and a community that knew them by name. Yet, as the golden hour faded into twilight, a darkness began to stir in the shadows, a darkness that would forever change the fabric of their lives. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a series of tragic events unfolded that would leave the entire neighborhood reeling in shock and horror. The Watts family, once a beacon of happiness and tranquility, became the unwilling focal point of a mystery that would unravel the secrets hidden within the very walls of their home. As the police arrived on the scene, the once vibrant lives of the Watts family were transformed into a chilling narrative of murder, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of truth, a truth that would shatter the very core of their once perfect world. In the shadowy streets of a sleepy coastal town, where the fog rolled in like a shroud of mystery, the Watts family had long been known for their reclusive nature. The old, ivy-clad mansion on the hill, perched like a watchful sentry, whispered tales of a bygone era when the Wattses had been pillars of the community. But as the years waned, so too did the family's once stellar reputation, their secrets festering beneath the surface like the roots of an ancient tree. It was on a chill, misty morning in October when the first disturbing whisper of their demise reached the ears of the townsfolk. The local constable, a grizzled man named Detective Malone, had been called to the Watts residence, his heart sinking as he approached the foreboding gates that seemed to loom like the very embodiment of dread. The front door swung open with a creak, revealing a scene of horror that would soon echo through the ages. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of decay, and the silence was broken only by the eerie sound of wind howling through the broken windows. The first room he entered was the living room, where the grand piano had been meticulously tuned to play a haunting melody that seemed to be the dirge of the Watts family's untimely end. As Malone's eyes adjusted to the dim light, he saw the lifeless bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Watts sprawled across the plush velvet sofa, their faces twisted in expressions of terror and shock. The scene grew worse as he moved deeper into the mansion, encountering room after room of SIMILAR Chinese letter, each one more grotesque than the last. The youngest child, a precocious girl of 12, was found in the nursery, her small body entwined with the limbs of her brother, who had been no more than 10 years old. The eldest son, a young man of 20, lay in the library, his eyes wide with an unspoken terror as he clutched a copy of Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart. Malone's mind raced as he pieced together the chilling puzzle, the evidence suggesting a motive rooted in long-buried family secrets and a series of escalating acts of madness. The town of Blackwater, once a place of tranquility, now found itself ensnared in a web of intrigue, fear, and the relentless pursuit of the truth. As the investigation unfolded, the once quiet streets were filled with whispers and speculation, and Malone knew that the true horror of the Watts family murders was only just beginning to surface. In the heart of a quiet, sun-dappled town nestled among rolling hills, the Watts family lived what appeared to be an idyllic existence. Their sprawling estate, a testament to their wealth and influence, was a picture of domestic bliss. The head of the family, Thomas Watts, was a successful lawyer respected in the community, while his wife, Elizabeth, was a beloved schoolteacher, adored by her students. The children, a set of 3, each as unique as the stars in the night sky, were the pride of the neighborhood. Yet beneath the picturesque facade, a dark storm brewed, one that would shatter the tranquility of their home and leave the townsfolk reeling. It was a storm that began on a seemingly ordinary Tuesday evening, when Thomas, returning from his office, found his family in a harrowing state of chaos, a chilling silence hanging in the air as he discovered the grim truth that would change everything forever. In the heart of a small, picturesque town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, the Watts family had long been known for their serene existence, a beacon of tranquility in a world that often seemed to spin out of control. The sun had barely dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the quaint houses and cobblestone streets, when the first chilling scream shattered the night's silence. It was a sound that would echo through the ages, a scream that heralded the end of innocence and the beginning of a harrowing tale of horror. The Watts family, once a close-knit unit of warmth and laughter, found themselves at the mercy of a malevolent force that would shatter their lives forever. As the moon climbed higher, casting a pale, eerie light upon the scene, the townsfolk gathered, their eyes wide with fear, as they watched in horror as the once peaceful Watts household became the site of a macabre tragedy that would leave an indelible mark on the very soul of the community. In the shadowed crevices of a fog-enshrouded town, where the whispers of the wind carried tales of old, the Watts family resided in a sprawling mansion that seemed to breathe with the eerie stillness of the night. The mansion, a relic of a bygone era, stood at the end of a winding, overgrown path that led to the heart of the town, its ivy-clad walls whispering secrets to those who dared to listen. Inside, the Watts family lived a life of opulence and seclusion, their days filled with the clinking of silverware and the distant hum of a grand piano. But beneath the gilded surface, a darkness simmered, a cauldron of secrets and deceit that would soon bubble over into a nightmarish tapestry of tragedy. As the moon hung low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the mansion's iron gates, the family's lives were about to unravel in a web of lies, betrayal, and unspeakable horror. In the heart of the sun-baked town of Seraphine, where the whispering willows danced in the cool breeze of twilight, the Watts family was a beacon of prosperity and harmony. The sprawling mansion, perched atop a hill, was a testament to their success, with its grand columns and arched windows that seemed to embrace the warm glow of the setting sun. The air was thick with the scent of blooming jasmine and the laughter of children, For the Wattses were a family bound by love and laughter, a close-knit unit that shone like a gem in the rough of small-town life. Yet, as the golden hour faded into the velvet darkness, a storm of terror was brewing, a silent assassin lurking in the shadows of their once peaceful existence. It began with a simple knock at the door, a knock that would echo through the ages, a prelude to a night of horror and despair that would unravel the very fabric of the Watts family legacy, casting a dark shadow over the town that would never be the same. In the heart of the bustling metropolis, where the echoes of urban life painted a cacophony of life and noise, the Watts family resided in an elegant Victorian mansion, a beacon of opulence in a neighborhood that whispered tales of whispered secrets. The night was dark, shrouded in an ominous cloud that threatened to unleash its wrath upon the unsuspecting city below. The moon, a pale, blood-red orb, cast a haunting glow over the grand estate, as if to warn of the darkness that lurked within. Inside, the Watts family was oblivious to the foreboding atmosphere. They dined in their luxurious dining room, silverware clinking softly against porcelain, the scent of a sumptuous feast mingling with the warmth of a crackling fireplace. Yet beneath the surface, the air was thick with tension, the family members exchanging cryptic glances, as if a silent agreement had been reached. For in this seemingly perfect household, a storm was brewing, a tempest of repressed emotions and dark desires that would soon erupt into a whirlwind of horror, shattering the delicate facade of their idyllic existence and leaving behind a trail of destruction, a testament to the darkest corners of the human psyche. In the hushed, sun-dappled town of Willow Creek, nestled between the whispering canyons and the rolling hills, the Watts family had been the embodiment of domestic tranquility for generations. Their sprawling, ivy-covered mansion, a sprawling testament to their wealth and status, stood as a silent sentinel on the edge of the quaint village, its grand windows casting a soft, inviting glow into the night. The Wattses, with their impeccable taste and impeccable manners, were the epitome of the American dream, their lives a tapestry of pristine white picket fences and laughter echoing through the halls. Yet, as the golden leaves of autumn began to turn, and the world outside seemed to hold its breath, a darkness crept into the heart of the Watts family, a darkness that would shatter the illusion of their perfect life and cast a long, shadowy stain upon the community's idyllic facade. One crisp October evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the first stars began to twinkle, the tranquility of Willow Creek was shattered by a sound so jarring and unnatural that it echoed through the streets like a clarion call of doom. The sound of glass shattering, the piercing scream of a woman, and the thunderous crash of flesh against flesh all erupted from the heart of the Watts estate, and with each reverberating echo, the once serene town of Willow Creek was irrevocably altered. In the shadowed alleys of a once thriving industrial town, the Watts family had long been a beacon of tranquility, their name whispered with reverence by those who knew them. The old Victorian mansion, with its peeling paint and weathered facade, stood as a silent sentinel, a relic of a bygone era. Inside, the Wattses lived a life of quiet luxury, their days filled with the gentle hum of domesticity, their nights enlivened by the laughter of children and the soft lullabies of a loving mother. But on a chill autumn evening, as the leaves began to turn and the world outside grew increasingly foreboding, the idyll was shattered by a series of events that would echo through the town for generations. The first whisper of dread came when the youngest child, a curious 5-year-old named Emily, vanished without a trace, her cries for help echoing through the empty streets like a haunting siren call. The town was thrown into a frenzy, the police department overwhelmed by the urgency of the situation. Days turned into weeks, and the search for Emily continued, but she was nowhere to be found. Then, one by one, the other children followed her into the abyss, each disappearance shrouded in mystery and whispered about in hushed tones. The town's heart grew heavy with sorrow, and whispers of malevolent forces began to circulate, casting a dark shadow over the once hallowed Watts estate. As the days passed, the remaining Watts family, now reduced to a single parent and her 2 surviving children, clung to each other for solace, their lives forever altered by the inexplicable loss of their loved ones. The mansion, once a sanctuary, now felt like a tomb, its once robust walls whispering secrets of a horror that no one could comprehend. It was in this atmosphere of dread and disbelief that the townspeople discovered the chilling truth, a truth that would forever change the course of their lives and leave an indelible mark on the annals of history. In the heart of a sun-drenched Los Angeles suburb, the Watts family resided in a modest but cozy 3-bedroom house that stood like a beacon of normalcy among the sprawling tract homes. The year was 1981, and the community buzzed with the promise of summer's warmth. But for the Watts family, the heat was not just a seasonal phenomenon. It was a metaphor for the inferno that would soon consume their lives. The parents, Robert and Pamela Watts, were known for their warm smiles and tireless community involvement, while their 3 children, Alex, Emily, and young Jordan, roamed the neighborhood as if it were their personal playground. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming, and on a fateful night, a shadow would emerge to shatter the fragile facade of their idyllic life, dragging the Watts family into a nightmarish whirlwind of mystery, tragedy, and the relentless pursuit of truth. The night of the murders was a tempest, a storm of silence that would echo through the years, leaving behind a haunting legacy that would forever be etched into the annals of Los Angeles history. In the shadowed alleys of a city long forgotten by the sun, the Watts family resided in a sprawling mansion that whispered tales of old money and forgotten glories. The air was thick with the scent of ivy and the distant hum of the city, but within those walls, a darkness clung to the very bricks and beams. It was a place where secrets were whispered in hushed tones, and the laughter of children was a rare and precious sound. As the moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the property, the family gathered in the grand library, a room filled with leather-bound tomes and forgotten lore. The patriarch, a man of immense wealth and power, sat at the head of the table, his eyes gleaming with a mix of pride and unease. Beside him, his wife, a woman of grace and mystery, watched her children with a keen, almost predatory gaze. The oldest son, a man of ambition and avarice, leaned forward, his fingers tapping nervously on the polished wood. The youngest daughter, a child of dreams and desires, clutched a porcelain doll, her eyes wide with a fear that seemed to spring from the very fabric of the mansion. As the clock struck midnight, a chill ran through the room, and the air grew heavy with an unspoken dread. For in that moment, a shadow moved across the floor, a silent witness to the family's secrets, and the first ominous sign that the Watts family would soon be forever entwined in a web of tragedy and murder. In the sleepy town of Willowbrook, where the sun dipped into the horizon like a golden coin, the Watts family had been a beacon of community warmth, their laughter echoing through the cobblestone streets. The head of the family, a grizzled fisherman named Harold Watts, was known far and wide for his hearty tales of the deep blue sea, while his wife, Emily, with her silver-streaked hair and gentle smile, was the heart of the community, her kitchen the hub of local gatherings. Their children, the 3 Watts siblings, were the pride of Willowbrook, each excelling in their own way. Tom, the youngest, with a penchant for art and music. Sarah, the middle child, a bright star in the science club. And young Jamie, the oldest, a natural athlete with a heart as big as the ocean. But on a stormy night, when the rain lashed against the windows like the cries of the lost souls, the Watts family's peaceful existence was shattered as the town of Willowbrook would never be the same again. For in the early hours of that tempestuous night, the Watts family was found in their cozy home, the scene of a chilling horror that would cast a long shadow over the once idyllic town.